Welcome back to part two of NESARA. So we went through all the details of the implementation of NESARA and what it really is, and now we're going to see that it's going to implement in stages. And this piece is as important as the first piece because when I talk to people about it, they say, "Oh my God, it's impossible. It's going to cause pandemonium in society. You're going to give all that money to all these people that sit on their lazy butts and do nothing." No, folks, this has been very, very well thought out. So what we're going to do with this first slide, we're going to break up in a second. Just in case there's anybody who didn't see part one, we're going to have a real quick review here, and then we're going to go into how this is all going to be rolled out. So basically, the transfer will occur in stages, and that's crucial. If you just gave billions and trillions of people of dollars to people, there would be chaos. But it's very well thought out, and it's not going to happen that way. Currencies will reevaluate as criteria is met. So let me give you some examples. For those who haven't been necessarily following, we did a whole series on what the evaluations occur, and we focused particularly on the dong and on the dinar. And what we talked about was that those currencies were crushed because we took them into wars in order to crush them. And now we're going to reinstate them because we have to have a new Bretton Woods, which we talked about. And that basically creates a situation where we have to bring all the currencies into parity. So what's been happening, let's take Vietnam, and then we'll go on down to the bullet points. Vietnam is receiving lots and lots of new manufacturing coming from China. They've got lots of domestic market. They've got lots of international markets. They have vibrant factories. They have some of the youngest youth market in the world in terms of their factory workers, and they actually have salaries that are lower than China. So they're all queued up. They're all ready to go, and they've met the criteria to be taken from the status of junk currency to go under the 4X and be traded internationally. So that's going to happen with all the third world nations, one by one, as they meet the criteria to have their currencies revalued. And so let's go to the next bullet point. As fiat currency is what abandoned, we'll go to gold and silver backed currencies. And let's review what that does. Is that means we're no longer dealing with money that can be inflated and deflated at will, that has absolutely no value, that every dollar printed creates a bond, which creates a debt obligation, which means that per perpetuity, for every dollar printed, we owe more money to the crooks who will hold us in financial slavery. Let's go on down to the next bullet point. Fiat currency will be replaced by what? Blockchain and cryptocurrency, backed by Bitcoin reserves and commodity-backed stablecoins. Why is that important? It means there's something there that backs our economic system, that gives its resiliency and gives it value. And then we go down to the final bullet point. NESARA will be implemented, replacing the current fiat system, completing the transfer of wealth. So that's what the rest of this presentation is going to be about. This was just for those who weren't here yesterday. So let's go on down to the next slide, and we'll break this down a little bit further. Hold on, I got to do something on my computer. Give me just 1 second. All right, here we go. So how will the money be distributed without collapsing the economy? It's all been provided for. There's a way. So what's going to happen? We're going to get those 5,915, I think it is, patents, and they're going to be based on AI and robotics and nanotechnology. And guess what? The whole labor market's going to change. There's going to be a lot of unemployment that's going to cause a lot of chaos if we don't make provision for it. So we have made provision. With the advent of AI and robotics, we'll force what? We'll force a change in the way we do things. We will have to have a form of universal income. Let's go down to the next step, and we'll see how that works. Under NESARA, people will be required, keyword required, to have a job, or if they don't have a job, if there is no job, perform an equivalent public service. So think about that. There'll be the people with the technical skills that'll be working in their normal 9-to-5 jobs or whatever it is. I don't think you'll be working 40 hours a week. I think you would be working probably 20 hours a week. But think of what's going to happen in society when we have whole groups of people. There's probably only one person working in every family. Over in Europe now, in some countries, they already have job sharing, where basically Finland's one, where basically two people uh, fill a 40-hour job. One works 20 hours and the other works 20 hours. That's probably going to happen. So mankind will have an opportunity to get to know your kids, to get to know your wife, to get to know your neighbor, to participate in things that add value to society. We will be able to work on spiritual growth, and we will be able to become the nation that God always intended it to be, because we'll be out of the debt trap, and we'll be able to work on spirituality and on things that make living worthwhile. And so we move on down. Restoration of illegal taxes will do what? Will be paid out based upon age brackets. So let me explain that. So if they just dumped all those trillions into the economy at one time, it would cause hyperinflation. So if you're in your 20s, you'll get a little bit of a supplemental income, universal income, but you'll have to work. And you don't get any money if you don't work. And then as you go up to the next bracket, and you're maybe 30 to 40, you'll get a little bit larger universal income. And as you get to the bracket where we're retired, you're probably, according to what I've read, have an option. You can take payouts, or you can get it all in one lump sum. But that spreads everything out, giving us the opportunity to have the time to adjust the markets where people have jobs, and where the ones who aren't working are able to fit themselves in to basically public service positions, and the whole world basically benefits. This brings peace and prosperity to the world. And guess what? You got all you frustrated college kids out there where the government orchestrated loans for you and then drove up the cost of your college education and said those loans were going to be so low, and then they raise those interest rates, and you're in a trap where you can't get out of debt. You can't pay that off. Those school loans are going to be paid off. And now the educational system is going to be changed. America pays more per student than any other nation in the world, and yet we rank, I think, 40th of all nations. So our whole educational system is going to have to be changed. It's going to be based on technology, on vocational skills, and listen to this, life skills. And I predict, this is my prediction, that we're going to see an exodus to a degree from the big cities. We're going to see the big cities rebuilt, their infrastructures rebuilt, and basically the blighted areas taken out. But there's going to be an opportunity for a reverse exodus. Going back for the last 100 years, people came from the country into the city. And now with what we have with being able to do remote work, we're going to be able to see some people leave and go to smaller cities, and we're going to be able to transition. And that's going to make a tremendous difference, because what we're not going to be totally, completely, and utterly, absolutely indebted to basically the government to supply us with food, with water, with all of our necessities, because we're going to learn life skills, and we're going to live, many of us in the country, and those who live in the cities, they'll be regreening them so that you might be able to have a garden plot. Everything is going to change. And down to the last point on this, the infrastructure project will rebuild basically our cities, and humanitarian projects will regreen the earth, and it will be like a virtual Garden of Eden. Let's go on to the next slide. And this next slide is what makes it all possible. As we go from a fiat system over to commodity-backed system, I want you to think about this. Are you going to go out and buy a loaf of bread with a gold coin worth over $3,000? I don't think so. So what enables us to do that is a quantum financial system. And what enables that to happen is XRP, which allows us to do what? To quickly transfer money across borders, to be able to do it for pennies, absolute fractions of a penny, actually, and to take anything in the world and fractionalize it down to the smallest possible components you can imagine. So you can take a whole ship of oil and fractionalize it down to a penny. And basically that gives us an economic system that is versatile, and that functions, and that cannot be controlled and manipulated, and is based upon things that have intrinsic value. So the system cannot be manipulated. Let's go to the next slide, and I'll show you the breaking of the chains. So Voltaire said that eventually All paper currencies, which remember are backed by nothing, default to what? Their inherent value of zero. So now what happens when we get out of that fiat system and we go to a commodity-backed system ordained by God? They can't inflate the system. They can't deflate it. They can't cause wage suppression. I'm going to stop on this one. You want to know why you can't buy a house? I'm going to tell you why you can't buy a house, because productivity has gone up and up and up and up and up with the advent of technology, of the computer, of the internet, of robotics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they have conspired to make sure that your wages stayed where they were, so that your cost of everything has gone up and your salary has dragged way, way, way by. That all is going to end when we go through NESARA. And the boom bust cycles are going to end, because they're not going to be able to manipulate the stock market and cause inflation and deflation and boom bust cycles, because the commodities that are backing the currency cannot be manipulated by a fiat currency. And national and consumer debt, gone, wiped out. We may even, I don't know about this, but we, I believe, may be able to have the ability to borrow money without any interest at all. But if it's not that, it's going to be very low interest, because we're not going to have usury. And poverty and division are going to be ended, because when everybody has a decent standard of living, they're no longer going to be able to pit us against one another. And the global conflicts will end. Remember, from our first part yesterday, you cannot participate in NESARA unless you do a stand out of your military. So we're going to have a quantum-based financial system driven by XRP, by blockchains, and it will end the debt trap of the banking cartel, of the global financial elite that not only want to enslave us, but remember, their ultimate goal is to commit genocide. And according to what? The Georgia Guidestones, their magic number is to have no more than 500 million of us. And the UN says, well, we can maybe tolerate 1 billion. So folks, we're in a battle for our very survival, for the very survival of the human race, for your children and your grandchildren. We have to win. And that requires that you stand up and you help us transition, and you do not come out and fight against what is actually going to basically give you freedom. Let's go to the next slide and we'll break this down a little further. So what's going to happen here is, this is what we've been waiting for. I might do a show in the next couple of weeks reviewing all of the prophecies from Kim Clement. But basically, here's what happened. He gave his prophecies in 2007 of Donald Trump coming back into office. And I tried to find this quote I'm going to reference here, this prophecy, but I couldn't find it. So I'm coming from my memory. And to my best recollection, he said Trump would be president. He would have 2 terms, but in a unrelated prophecy, he said that there would be an interruption between those terms. So was there? Yes. Why would it happen? Because what had to happen is, at the end of when he basically lost the 2016 election, as I understand it, there was a meeting called, and the generals sat around a table with him and they conferred, and he wanted to push and absolutely show that election was stolen. And the generals came back and said, people aren't ready. There'll be absolute civil war. You have to let this go. And that's where, according to what I understand, we followed our Constitution. We followed the law manual. And instead of being president, he became what? He became the commander in chief. And if you remember, supposedly, the football was never given to Biden. So Biden was just a puppet, being puppeted by the global financial elite and by Obama. But really, the military and the power under national emergency was still under Trump. But what did that do? That 4-year interruption allowed them to get everything put together and to drip, 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 drip the truth to us. So now, when this second term was implemented, we would be prepared to know what happened and how we've been put in slavery, and we would not have riots. There may be a few little things because we've got all those people from all those other countries in here, but Trump has made provision to take care of that. So let's go back, and the whistleblowers are now going to come out, not as a drip, 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 but as a tsunami. and Trump will get his day in court. And as he said, I have it all, and he'll prove it. And absolutely, the information I've seen says he will prove it. And then we're going to find out a little bit more about the capitulation tour. And we're going to know that basically we have the money to have a gold-backed system. And then we're going to find out that since 2016, there have been what? Unprecedented number of what? World leaders step down. And now in 25, they're stepping down. Hollywood people are leaving. Politicians are saying, I'm not running for office. The rats, to put it in plain, simple terms, they're abandoning the ship, hoping that if they get out of their positions of power, that we'll let them go. But I got to tell you, I don't think Trump's in a mood to let them go. We have to get rid of the people who have controlled us and take them out of power so that we can get freedom back. And so now looking at 2024, 180 CEOs stepped down. So think about this. These are guys who are making $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, $30 million a year. You think they're going to step down? They were forced out. And then stocks and viewership, basically I'm talking about the media here. Basically, their stocks have plummeted as we found out that they give us nothing but lies, and the viewership has dropped off. And when we get this transfer of wealth, all of the media is going to be controlled by people who are serving God, who are serving mankind. And this is all going to free us up, causing the media to tell the truth, and the truth will set us free, and the division will be ended, and we will stand together united as one people, one nation under God. More than that, one world under God, all serving God, all pursuing spiritual enhancement and self-enhancement, and the world will be absolutely amazing. Let's go on to the next slide. And I hate to bring this up, but I just need for you to understand we are winning. We are going to win, but it's like the law of the jungle. If a lion is backed into the bush and he's injured, you can bet your bottom dollar he's going to attack. So I don't know the details of what's coming, but I know that in my heart of hearts that they're not going to just lay down. We're going to see those arrests, and those people are going to be tribunaled, but there's still puppets above them that are controlling, and they're going to do everything they can. So I'm just telling you, be prepared for chaos. Be prepared for possibly some more financial false flag events, for cyber attacks, for protests, for fake news. Now, let's get to this election. You're not going to be able to steal this next election, folks. I'm telling you, I'm going to give you a forecast for what's coming. Donald Trump knows how they stole this last election, and he's not going to allow it to happen again. So one of the things he's going to do is he's going to call a census early. He's going to call it in 2026 before the election, and he's going to see to it that the census reflects something very important. When in his first term, he tried to get one simple little question put into the census: are you a U.S. citizen? And they said no. Well, now he's going to get that, and that's going to change and basically put a roadblock between their ability to be able to steal this election, because if you funnel all of the 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants that came in here into blue states and the sanctuary cities, what does it do? It gives them more money, because the money that they get from the federal government is based on head count. And what else does it do? It gives them more representation, so they get more representation in Washington. That's all going to be done away with, and the gerrymandering is going to stop. But they're going to come at us. Maybe they're going to give us another virus. Maybe they're going to use 5G. I don't know. But just don't get disheartened. God has us all under control. We will win. And I honestly believe that anything they do is going to be short-lived. Trump has already prepared and already told us when we had 08, it was designed to collapse catastrophically and not recover for 10 or 12 years. When we had 29, same thing, designed to collapse and to not recover for years. Donald Trump has told us, I got everything queued up. Everything. NESARA is ready. Quantum financial system is ready. We have to have a catastrophic financial collapse in order to take the money from the wicked and give it to the righteous, so that he who controls money controls the world. So we get the control of the money. But first we have to have the financial collapse. And then he kicks in everything we've been talking about yesterday and today, and we have an immediate recovery, except it's not back to the point we were at. It is a recovery that basically takes us in a new era of freedom and prosperity, the likes of which we've never seen. Let's go to the next slide. And this is what comes out of it. This is the reset. This is the reevaluation. Here's what has to happen to have that parity, to have that opportunity for peace and prosperity to happen. All the first world nations that have committed Western hegemony against the third world nations, all the currencies are going to go down. That means the currency of the United States, of China, of all of the EU, of Japan, of Britain, they're all going to go down. And all the third world nations, that's all of the continent of Africa, Vietnam, India, Venezuela, Iraq, Brazil, and others are all going to go up. Why? Because their currencies have been held down because we have denied them the infrastructure that they needed in order to get access to their natural resources and build the wealth that their nations have. These nations are some of the wealthiest nations in the world. And when this transition happens, they're going to be able to have the money to build their infrastructure, tap into their natural resources, and their currencies will value, and the two will meet in the middle, and we will have economic parity, which means that's the requirement for peace and prosperity around the world. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to see something else. We're almost done. That is crucial to bringing this period of peace and prosperity, ending the war. You cannot have power concentrated in the hands of few and have any semblance of peace and prosperity. So we have to have, and you're seeing it happen right before your eyes, deglobalization as trade is being stripped from China and distributed to nations all around the world. And let's break this down a little bit. They say, who controls money? Controls what? The world. Well, let's break it down. Where does the money come from? You have to have natural resources. That's the system we're going to, commodities. Then you have to have manufacturing capacity. Then you have to have the ability to ship those goods around the world. That takes us into the trade. That takes us into what Trump has been doing to create a level trading field where every nation can have economic parity. And so that deglobalization has to happen. It's imperative. And then you have to have dollarization because the world cannot afford to be controlled through trade nor through money. And so that's all happening. And when that happens, the world reaches a period of peace and prosperity where all nations have relative economic parity. And the cause of war, as Eisenhower said, I know I've said this before, but it's important. Is there any man, is there any child, is there anyone who doesn't understand that the principal cause of war between nations is economic inequality? There's not going to be economic inequality. Me and my wife and my children and you and your wife and your children and all of the people all around the world are all God's children. And he intends us for us to all have enough food, enough water to be able to have a decent standard of living. And he is the one who's behind all of this. And he does not lie. He cannot lie. The minute he speaks it, it comes into reality. And he has spoken this economic system and planned it since the foundation of time. Finally, we're ready to go to the last slide, and I'm not sure what we'll do next week, but it's all for the next several weeks going to, in one way or another, revolve around how we get our freedom back and around the real estate market and around the coming financial collapse and all of that. So again, since I just did this yesterday, I'll make it quick. Please, you need to look at buying this book if you haven't bought it, because we need people that are informed. Because listen to what's going to happen. When we take 90% of the people out of Washington, there's a big vacuum. When we take 90% of the people out of the leadership of the big banks, there's a vacuum. When we take the leadership out of the corporations, there's a vacuum. So we need an entire army of people who are informed, who know what a republic is, and who are in a position to step in and fill those positions so that we don't have to fill them with our enemies, so we can fill them with Christians, with people who are prepared to serve we, the people of the United States of America, and not serve our slave masters. So with that, that's it for today. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. And please remember to to slam that like button and to subscribe, because we're going into a very, very significant period of time. And what I'm trying to do is, God told me, you'll come out when you hear salt and pepper at the end. I'm trying my best to inform you so that you are ready to step into those positions, to fill those positions so that we can fill them with righteous, informed people. So as our founding fathers said, when they came over here, the first thing they did was found Harvard so we could read. They brought their Bibles so we knew morality. They set up a government that was based on a new, untried system of government, a republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And they warned us the minute that those least willing or least able to work are able to get money from the public coffers, it is just a matter of time until debt drives the nation into absolute collapse. And that's where we're at now. You guys need to know that. You need to know what is required to have a republic, and you have to be informed. You have to be know the truth. You have to be willing to go to the polls, informed, and vote for what's in the best interest of every person in the country, not self-interest. And we're going to have some constitutional revisions made, folks. So as we go into this, breaking it down further in weeks to come, we're going to talk about how the Constitution, the original Constitution, is going to have to be restored, and how we're going to have some amendments. So you need to be informed so that especially you young people out there can step into these positions that are going to be filled and going to require people who are informed and who are willing to serve the public. So with that, we'll see you next time.